Hey everyone, it's Ten Types, and today I'm super excited to be talking about some really interesting decks. These decks have been made by Professor Poke, another YouTuber, a friend of mine, and I will link their channel down below in the description. Uh, I am looking at their list because Professor Poke is both a better player than me. I'm not a bad player, but Professor Poke is a very good player and a better deck builder. I am not that good of a deck builder. I actually don't know if they're a better deck builder than me. He might be, not sure. But it's like, um, yeah, I'm okay. And these lists are pretty decent. I don't think they're necessarily perfect or the best, but they're all really decent. And I want to talk about them and talk about my thoughts on the cards as well in the decks because they all feature new ancient Pokemon that we will be getting presumably in Temporal Forces coming out in like March, but it's not guaranteed that they're coming out then. Uh, Mostly probably will though. I think Walking Wake's pretty much guaranteed. I think it is on the pack art if I'm not mistaken. And that's where we're starting. These are also not in any particular order, I guess. I'd actually say maybe they're from worst to best, but not necessarily. Starting off here with Walking Wake EX, that is like the new card. Is it the only new card? It's not the only new card. Oh, these all have ace specs. Because yeah, those are good. Ace specs, for those of you who don't know, you can have one ace spec in your deck, but only one. You probably should have one. They're quite good. And this deck runs Prime Catcher. A lot of decks play Prime Catcher, or probably will play Prime Catcher. It's probably the best one. It's the best like general purpose one, almost certainly. It has its effect that is the same as Guzma for those of you who are familiar with that. And it says you switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to their active position, and you switch your bench Pokemon, one of your bench Pokemon to the active position. Really nice control over like the board state, and it functions as a switch. This list runs like one regular switch, but then it also runs Prime Catcher, which is pretty nice. And then yeah, but the new card here is Walking Wake EX. Walking Wake EX is a card that I didn't think was that good, but some people do think it's good. And so what Walking Wake EX here does, it does 120 for water colorless, but if I believe your opponent's active Pokemon is, I think is affected by a special condition. It maybe have to be poisoned, but I think it's any special condition. Then you do 240, which is obviously much more and a good amount of damage, a decent amount of damage for 3 energy. But then you can use water energy and double turbo, so you're hitting 220, but then you have extra damage from the poison, so you're hitting 230. You don't have to use the double turbo, but it's good. Then you also have an ability. I kind of forget what the ability is, not gonna lie. I think it's like you can hit through effects or something. It's not very good. That's what I know. Um, it does have it though, which is nice, giving you better matchups into uh like Mimikyu decks or decks. I think Mimikyu is a very decent card, so this will be better against that. But like Mimikyu doesn't see that much play. Um, which I think it just hits through effects. So yeah, I don't know. It could be used, but in my opinion, not that useful of ability. But then, yeah, you have Brute Bonnet here. Brute Bonnet, for those of you who don't know, says if it has Ancient Booster Energy Capsule attached to it, you can poison your opponents or both active Pokemon. So obviously, you don't really want to poison yourself. That is not ideal. But if you do, it's not the end of the world. But you also have Ancient Booster Energy Capsule. Well, there are a few things. One, you could switch out your active, removing the poison before it does any damage to you, which is nice. Or you can use Ancient Booster Energy Capsule, which itself gives you 60 more HP and stops poison. So pretty much the idea is you get in the tool on Walking Wake and probably in Brute Bonnet. And then you also have, then you can power it up with Palkia V-Star. This is kind of like Palkia Chien-Pao, but not really. I think that's how Professor Poke described it. I think he said it was like, it's kind of like Palkia Chien-Pao, but it's not really the same. Um, because it, I mean, it only plays one Chien-Pao and like two Palkias, which isn't that high. And then Radiant Energy can attack with Palkia V-Star will accelerate energies to those water Pokemon. In my opinion, I do. Oh, and then Ancient, or sorry, EXP share that can like conserve some energy. I think it's fine. I don't think it needs to be super turbo-y. You can attack turn one using Pressure Size Vitality, um, which can be nice. I mean, it's good. So you can go turbo-y, but it's also kind of not turbo-y. So I feel like if you want, you could play like Pokestop, right? Pokestop, of course, can will mill some cards you don't want to, but in my opinion, Town Store is not that good without Forest Sealstone. And Forest Sealstone isn't particularly good in this deck because then you can't use Palkia V-Star's ability. Although I think you could run it. I don't think you have to use Palkia's ability because you have Sada's Vitality. Also, I would like to see in fourth Ancient Booster Energy Capsule in the list. I don't feel like Earthen Vessel's that good. I mean, it's fine. It also runs Energy Switch, allowing you to kind of attack with Walking Wake, I guess easier. It gives you another option. Do you have the Canceling Cologne? It's doing a bunch of different things. I feel like it's doing too many things, and I'd rather see like a fourth Ancient Boost Energy Capsule, because then you go up to 280 HP, which is pretty awkward to knock out. It's not impossible by any means, and certainly many decks can do it, but it's much more. I mean, it's obviously much higher than 220. I don't think the damage output, like 220 to 240, is an okay amount, but and then you could add Radiant History and Sneasler. I might add that. Obviously you reduce your like Turbo potential. I honestly could see it like not running Palkia or a 1/1 Palkia, or going like all in Turbo to go like Roaring Moon. I think that would be better. Just playing it kind of like Roaring Moon. Obviously you're not like one-shotting everything, but you're one-shotting a bunch of things, and then also you have more reasonable ability to attack with Radiant Greninja. Obviously, there isn't Dark Patch for water. Well, there is Dark Patch for water, but not in standard. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think Walking Wake's that good. I think it could be okay, but I think it's one of the weaker decks, as I said, going from weakest to strongest of these decks. Next up, we got Roaring Moon, Baby Roaring Moon. When I was saying Roaring Moon earlier, I think most of you know I was talking about Roaring Moon EX. But anyways, this is Baby Roaring Moon with this is like Ancient Box, I guess is what you could call it. And so the new cards, I'll go over them quickly. Flutter Mane, if it's in the active, your opponent is ability locked. It has an attack that you can use, but it's not that good. Brute Bonnet, obviously, we talked about, which isn't new. Koraidon, I think, does 30 more for each of your ancient Pokemon to play. Or no, I think it's just 30 times. So if you have like a bunch of ancient Pokemon in play, then it's going to just do like a bunch of damage. I think it's 180. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, so you can use that, and then you can also use the Roaring Moon here, which does I think 70 plus 10 more for each ancient Pokemon in your discard. No, sorry, ancient card in your discard. So that's pretty interesting, because obviously like that can hit really hard, right? It's too dark, so you do run this. Let's run Dark Patch versus has Vitality. Then there's a supporter, which I forgot. I forgot it was the same as Hapu. Hapu was definitely a card I forgot about because it was pretty mediocre, not that bad, but it says it's the supporter here, which does it's like explores something or something's exploration. I don't know, but it searches for a or sorry, you look at the top six and then put two in your hand. So it's a bit of dig, not like search, but dig, and then you discard the other four. So this is kind of nice because it like discards cards, which is something good for you. And it's also kind of bad because you discard a lot of stuff, which might not necessarily be ideal. Obviously, you have like Pokestop. And discarding isn't bad; it's good, but also like you don't want to discard everything, right? Like you don't want to discard your other. Well, actually, you don't mind discarding your supporters. One thing I do find kind of sketchy is one boss. This is something I've never really loved. Just like one boss in a deck like this, you're like probably gonna mill it, and then it just goes away. Um, and then okay, yeah, sorry, I was looking up Koraidon, and Koraidon is 30 times, which makes sense. So it maxed out at 180. But Koraidon is a pretty good attacker. I feel like it's pretty important early game and kind of hard to hit. So I think, yeah, and I think the Mismagius sword and the Misdreavus one, which is called Flutter Mane. No, is that it? Yeah, Flutter Mane is okay. I'd probably, I guess it's fine. I guess I kind of like the counts. So I think Roaring Moon can it one shot everything in this list? So you have I don't know. I think it has like almost 30 Pokemon or 30 ancient cards, right? You also have the Ace Spec, which just draws a bunch of cards. It draws one for each ancient Pokemon you have in play. To me, this deck's gonna is gonna be good, or not like super good, but pretty decent for a single price deck, or good for a single price deck, decent for like a regular deck. If you've ever played, there's a Viper or Stonejourner deck, which wasn't that good. It's kind of like that, but this is better because it's all basics. It's gonna kind of play like Roaring Moon EX, kind of play like what else is there? I don't know. Like there have been decks like this. It's not necessarily the most powerful, kind of like Castform, but it's like Mad Party or it's like United Wings. But I think this is better, because it can like one shot everything, or potentially it can one shot a lot of things and hit for very significant damage. Koraidon needing a full bench of ancient Pokemon isn't that bad. I don't know how I feel about Radiant Greninja in the deck. It's kind of there for Roaring Moon, but you don't really want it in play with Koraidon. Um, Consistency seems kind of sketchy with this deck. Obviously, the tool, or the item, the Ace Spec, which just draws a bunch of cards, is good. We only have one copy. And I think in the video, Professor Poke's video, he said that like Dark Patch and Energy Switch are kind of like techie. They're for like mostly for Roaring Moon, which is fine. And also, if you want to attack with the Flutter Mane, which it's 90 for 3 colorless, and then you do like I think it's 20 benched. I think it's spread. It's like not very much spread. It's like a super mediocre attack. I find it on a different tab. Yeah, I think it's 90. So it's 90 to the active, and then 2 damage counters on your points benched any way you like, which is fine, I guess. Um, but yeah, Roaring Moon's like super good. I think you can attack with Brute on it as well. That is an option, but not the best. Um, and Ancient Boost Energy Capsule is like okay, getting up from 140 to 200. It's pretty nice on a single prizer. And you kind of need Ancient Boost Energy Capsule. And then on Brute Bonnet, it's good. I don't know. There aren't like a ton of ancient cards. I think Earthen Vessel's a nice buff to the deck because you. Well, I'm saying like a buff. It's not really a great way to describe it, but it's good for the deck because obviously it like discards cards and it searches for like cards. Um, I think you might have issues with energy. You're kind of a reliant on Earthen Vessel and Professor Sada's Vitality to get your energies, which is okay. Maybe it's good enough. I think this deck will be fine. I think it'll be a pretty solid single price deck. Next up, we have what happened. I don't know. Anyway, so we have this is Garchomp EX with Koraidon EX. Actually, I think this deck is not good. No offense to Professor Poke, but I think you'll see and you'll be like, oh, this deck seems kind of sketchy. But so you have Garchomp EX, which is a card that like accelerates a bunch of energy, fighting energy to your bench Pokemon. Then you have Koraidon EX. Koraidon EX here it's an ancient Pokemon here that does 280 for fighting fire, and then you do 60 to yourself, dropping yourself down to 170. But then if you stick the tool back on, you're up to the ancient boost energy capsule back up to 230. You can get as high as 290, but that's kind of bad because then you have to use your first attack to stay at that HP. In that attack, actually on Koraidon, you do 10. No, sorry, it's no 20 plus 10 more for each damage counter on this Pokemon, which is okay. Potentially one-shotting stuff. And then you have the other Garchomp. This is the interesting aspect that I thought was kind of cool. That's Garchomp. This one with its ability on play, you're invincible. I don't know if you're immune to effects of attacks. I think you are. But then you have your attack 160 for water fighting and discard discard the top 2 cards of your deck, which isn't great, but it's decent. And then the invincibility is obviously really nice. It also runs this new card. Well, so it runs Luminous Energy, so you can do Fighting plus Luminous to attack with Garchomp. And Fire is obviously there for Koraidon. I feel like only 2 Fire isn't a ton. And then you have Luminous. Maybe it's good enough. You need Earthen Vessel to get all the fightings in the discard earlier. I could see dropping a fighting for a fire. But then the ace spec here, which is interesting, is Neo Upper Energy or something like that. That's the translation I've heard, but it might not be correct. So you attach it to a stage 2, and it provides 2 energy of any type. Can be different types, so you can just attack with Garchomp or Garchomp EX and snipe. I don't know. I don't think it has insane value in this deck. I think Neo Upper Energy is a pretty mediocre card. I think Professor Poke is just looking for a deck to pop it into, which was this. I think it's a cool concept. I don't think this deck's going to be very good. I think Koraidon EX is okay. I don't even think it's that good. I think it's okay, though. Garchomp, I think, is decent. I don't know about with Koraidon if that's how I do it though. It also runs like some Arven stuff and like Irida, because Garchomp EX is water type as well. For those of you who didn't know, I feel like a fighting attacker would be good in the deck. I feel like a Terrakion or Groudon. I feel like those are good cards. I know some people think they're really bad, but I think they're decent. Next up, we have Gouging Fire. Gouging Fire EX is another really good one, kind of similar to, or decent one. Some people have said it's really good. Similar to Walking Wake, but it's like Fire. It's 260 for 3, but then you can't attack until you've switched out. So you need a bunch of switch. You need some. This list actually runs a lot of switch. It runs 2 penny, 4 switch card, and then Prime Catcher as well. It also runs Energy Switch, so potentially you can attack turn 1 going second. And this is a deck kind of like a turbo-y deck, very much like Roaring Moon. It doesn't Squawkabilly, Radiant Greninja. It actually runs both Moltres. The one that has Free Retreat with Fire Energy attached, which is really good in Arm Rouge, but obviously this doesn't run Arm Rouge. And then just like Snipe, and there's the other Moltres which attacks for 1. I feel like you do kind of want to go all in on Gouging Fire. Oh, I don't know. I don't have a problem with 1 Moltres, but I feel like both aren't necessary. Delphox Feet for Snipe, finishing off 2 Pokemon, or like you attack with Gouging Fire twice, and then finish off both those Pokemon with Delphox V, which could be good. You have Brute Bonnet for that poison, which I think is okay. Gouging Fire actually gets really big here, up to 290, which is pretty nice with Ancient Boost Energy Capsule, which is kind of cool. Although I don't know if it's super necessary. I think it's like Roaring Moon. It's not so necessary because you have less health, I think. No, you have the same amount of health, but you obviously, if you attack with the big attack, you go down to a lot less health. So Ancient Boost Energy Capsule isn't super necessary there. Also, the barrel's kind of weird. Like, I get it, I guess, but I feel like you want to go very much like Roaring Moon, like a very turbo deck. Magnum Basin plus Sada's Vitality gives you this turbo push. And I think Roaring Moon, Walking Wake, and Gouging Fire are all very comparable. You can play them slower if you want as well, just like you can play Roaring Moon with Darkrai, you can play Gouging Fire with Arm Rouge, you can play it with Barrel, Moltres, all these different things. Even Charizard, I probably wouldn't, but you could. It's not like bad. You have a lot of different. Actually, no, Gouging Fire with Charizard might be nice because you can go and like attack turn 2 for big damage in Charizard. It's like a tech in Charizard. Anyway, and Prime Catcher is obviously good in this deck. I don't think there's really another tool you can consider. There actually is the tool that gives you 100 more HP. There's also the damage buffing tool. Maybe you could play those. I don't hate those, but I think Prime Catcher is probably the best. Next up, we got two Lost Zone decks. This first one here, it's Koraidon EX. Again, does 280 for 3. Fighting, fire. That's super awkward to power up. Even in Lost Zone, it's kind of awkward. It also runs Tulip, which is kind of weird. It's like in this deck, it's worse than Claire. I've not played a ton of Lost Zone Radiant Charizard. I mean, I've played some, but like Tulip's okay. It gets back Sableye, so it's good in matchups where Sableye is good, which is admittedly most matchups. Oh, we do have, but does this list not run? Oh, this list does not run a lot of search. I feel like this list ran Buddy Poffin, but I guess not. Okay, so that's weird. I feel like you should put Buddy Poffin in. It runs for Artizone. Okay, I guess you can Artizone for Ditto. So Ditto transforms into like another Pokemon from your deck on the first turn. It's kind of like Battle via P-Pass, I guess. I consider it like Ditto plus Buddy Poffin, which is a card we'll talk about, I think. We might not actually, but I think that's kind of like Battle via P-Pass. And you have Comfey, obviously, Sableye, Cramorant, Manaphy, Radiant Charizard, so pretty normal Lost Zone Radiant Charizard stuff. But then you also have Koraidons to hit this big damage, the most damage you can hit in the entire deck. Earlier, one thing that's kind of weird, I don't know how I feel about this, if it's right, if it's wrong, or whatever. But one boss, one counter catcher, and one prime catcher. I think prime catcher is obviously really good if it provides a switch, which is good in Lost Zone. The list runs 8 switch plus prime catch, so 9 switch, and obviously decent chunk of energy, 10 energy. 10 energy is like pretty normal. I think it's a little awkward to power up the Koraidon. I mean, with 4 Mirage Gaze you can do it. I think well, you can't play Raihan. Raihan's rotating. So I don't know. There's some interesting stuff. I don't think Koraidon is the missing piece in Lost Zone, and I probably would put in a fighting Pokemon like, as I said earlier, Terrakion or Groudon. Probably not Groudon. Groudon actually steps very much on the toes of Radiant Charizard and Koraidon, they're kind of similar. I'd put Terrakion potentially. It's pretty nice, especially with only one Cramorant. They're kind of similar, hitting very similar amounts of damage as a basic Pokemon. Different typing, but pretty similar ideas there. But then you get that immunity with Terrakion, and it's fighting type. Fighting weakness is decent to hit. Terrakion's very good against Iron Hands. Iron Hands is kind of sketchy for this deck. Of course, what's it called? The Koraidon's like okay against Iron Hands. How much HP? It drops to 170 if you attack. Well, I guess even if you attack twice, you're not really in range of Iron Hands. Iron Hands gets some like new buffs and stuff though. But yeah, I think this deck's an interesting concept, but I don't know. I think Lawson is really good. Obviously, I think everyone kind of knows. I think that's good. But yeah, it's gonna be good still. Next up and lastly, we have what is this? Raging Bolt? Yeah, Raging Bolt. So this is like a normal Lost Zone, but with it Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt is super powerful. It does essentially infinite damage, or what people call infinite damage. For fighting lightning, it does 70 per each energy you discard from all your Pokemon. You can discard as many as you want, up to 5. You can do more than 5, but you're not, right? You're never really going to get more than 5 energy in play, and you very really need to do more than that. Although in the next set, we'll talk about some cards. Like you can get like 500 HP next set. It's pretty absurd. Like 500 HP without needing to jump through a lot of hoops. It's pretty broken. But anyway, we got Raging Bolt, so you can just do massive amounts of damage with that. And it's actually a big focus. This list doesn't run. Obviously, Kyogre from Celebration, so that's rotating. Celebration's rotating. Obviously, Dragonite V is also, I guess not everyone knows this, but Dragonite V, Celebrations, Kyogre, they're both rotating. And then Iron Hands Yak still good. Sableye is still good. I feel like 4 types of energy is too many. I've never really loved that. I'd probably drop, I don't know, I'd drop Water or Psychic. I could honestly see dropping Water, and then Luminion's kind of weird as well. I feel like I'm not a big fan of Luminion in this deck. I'd rather play like Boss as well. There is like almost no Gust in this list, which is kind of sketchy. There's Prime Catcher, and that's it. Not that Prime Catcher's bad, but it's good. But I don't know. Also, EXP share I think is kind of not super necessary. For Sealstone, again, I'm not the biggest fan of that. But you do have like Luminion, but I don't know. Um, I'd probably play like Beach Court as the stadium. I played Ditto and Buddy Poffin as well. I feel like there's not enough ball search in this list. I think Buddy Poffin's super good, searching for 2 Pokemon with 70 HP or less. That obviously grabs Comfy, but then it can also grab the Ditto, which I mentioned earlier. But anyway, I think Lost Zone, like Raging Bolt could be good in Lost Zone. And also, what was the other one? Koraidon EX could be decent in Lost Zone. Overall, I think there's like some really good stuff for ancient Pokemon. I think they're kind of a lot of them are just like different versions of Roaring Moon, and then you can power up in different ways. And then that single prize lost or sorry, single prize deck. This one is super good, or not super good, but super good for a single prize, right? One ancient Pokemon not mentioned is I think it's I forgot. I honestly forget the name of it. It's the like elephant one. Um, that one is Great Tusk. There we go. It's like Durant Mill. That's also going to be a pretty good single prize deck in my opinion. So, you can also put it in this deck. I might put that in here. It's kind of weird though. Maybe just a copy or two. But anyway, I'm super excited for the ancient Pokemon. Previously, I thought they were super mediocre, or not like I thought the mechanic was mediocre, but right now I'm looking forward to it, seeing what Pokemon's going to do with it as well going forwards. I'm not sure if we're getting another set of ancient Pokemon. If Japan, I should say, is going to get another set of ancient Pokemon. I think we'll probably see some run off into our next set, our like second set, the one with Ogerpon or whatever. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider subscribing. Of course, check out Professor Poke's videos as well, and the channel will be linked down below. They're like some of the more recent videos. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.